Everything you're about to hear, you do because you love them. That's what makes this so hard. These aren't the habits of careless owners. These are the habits of the ones who show up every single day. The ones who hold their bird against their chest and feel that warmth and think, this is what love is supposed to look like. And it is. Inhuman, but your cockatoo's body doesn't speak human. And some of the things that feel the most like love to you are quietly doing damage that won't announce itself until the day it becomes something you can't undo. There are 6 of them. 6 daily habits that millions of cockatoo owners practice right now, believing they are showing care. Not one of them comes from neglect. Every single one comes from love that was never translated. And the 6th one, the last thing I'll tell you today, is the one that will hurt the most to hear, because it's the one you're most proud of. Subscribe if you'd rather know the truth than be comfortable not knowing. Let me start with the one you probably did this morning, the kiss. You kiss them on the beak. Of course you do. They tilt their head towards you, that little face, those eyes, and you press your lips to their beak the way you'd kiss a child's forehead. It's instinct, it's tenderness. And every time you do it, you transfer bacteria from your mouth into theirs that their body has absolutely no defense against. Human saliva carries gram-negative organisms, bacteria that live harmlessly in your oral flora, that your immune system manages without effort, that you will never feel or notice. A cockatoo's immune system has never encountered them, not once in their evolutionary history. Their crop, their respiratory lining, their sinuses, none of it was built to fight what lives in your mouth. A single kiss during an active cold sore, something you might not even realize you have, can transmit herpes-adjacent viruses that kill parrots within days. Not weeks, days. And here's what makes this so cruel. The bird who gets sick from this is always the bird who is loved the most, the one who is held the closest, the one whose owner kissed them every morning because they couldn't imagine not doing it. You don't have to stop showing them affection. You have to move the target, forehead, top of the skull. Anywhere your lips don't meet their beak or their nares, the love stays, the bacteria doesn't. The pan. Somewhere in your kitchen right now, there is a pan coated in something that can kill your cockatoo from 2 rooms away without producing a single smell you can detect. Non-stick cookware, Teflon, PEEF-coated surfaces. When heated, especially when overheated, they release polytetrafluoroethylene fumes, odorless, invisible, completely harmless to every mammal in your house, and lethal to your bird. A cockatoo's respiratory system is not a simplified version of yours. It is a completely different architecture. 9 air sacs connected to the lungs in a continuous loop that cycles air through the body twice per breath. This system gives them the ability to fly, to vocalize, to sing. It also means that airborne toxins don't pass through and get filtered. They circulate, again and again, destroying tissue with every pass. Cockatoos have died in bedrooms 2 floors above a kitchen where a single non-stick pan was left on high heat for 20 minutes. The owner didn't smell anything. The bird didn't make a sound. They found them on the bottom of the cage. This is the #1 invisible household killer of companion parrots. Not disease, not diet, a pan. If you have a cockatoo in your home, every non-stick surface needs to leave. Stainless steel, cast iron, ceramic. The replacement costs less than a single emergency vet visit you'll never get the chance to make. The cuddle. This is the one where I need you to hear me carefully. Because I'm not telling you to stop touching your cockatoo. I'm telling you that where you touch them changes what their body believes is happening. When you stroke your cockatoo down the back, under the wings, along the belly, those long, full-body caresses that feel so natural that they seem to lean into, that make you feel connected, their body interprets every single one as courtship. Not comfort, not affection, mating behavior. In the wild, the only bird that touches a cockatoo below the head is a sexual partner. The back, the wings, the vent area, these are zones reserved exclusively for pair bonding that leads to reproduction. When you pet these areas daily, you don't soothe your cockatoo, you activate their reproductive system. Chronically, permanently. Their hormones spike and never come back down, the aggression that appeared out of nowhere. The screaming that escalated over months, the sudden territorial behavior toward other family members. In females, the egg binding that can kill them. None of it was behavioral, All of it was hormonal, and you triggered it with the same hands that were trying to say I love you. The head, the cheeks, the nape of the neck. These are the only zones that register as social bonding without sexual activation. Stay there, always. Let every touch above the necks say everything your hands were trying to say everywhere else. The window. You put their cage by the window because you wanted them to have sunlight. A view, something to watch during the day. You imagined them sitting there peacefully, looking at the trees, enjoying the world outside. Here's what your cockatoo actually experiences for 8 hours a day in front of that glass. Movement they cannot identify. Shadows shaped like predators they cannot escape. Birds outside that trigger territorial instincts they cannot act on. Humans approaching the house that they cannot assess from behind a barrier they don't understand. A window is not enrichment for a cockatoo. It is a screen playing a horror film they can't turn off. Every unfamiliar shape that passes triggers a micro-stress response, a small cortisol spike, a feather tensing, a moment of alertness that resolves, then happens again 4 minutes later, and again, for the entire day. Over weeks and months, that baseline cortisol elevation becomes chronic, and chronic cortisol does one thing to cockatoos more reliably than almost any other stressor. It destroys feathers, not because the bird is bored, not because they need more toys, because their body has been marinating in a low-grade stress hormone for so long that the only relief their nervous system can find is the pressure of pulling a feather from their own chest. Move the cage to a wall with one side open to the room. Let them see the interior of their home, the predictable space, the familiar movement, the flock they actually belong to. That is their view. You are their view. The light. It's 9 o'clock at night. You're on the couch. The lights are on. The TV is running, and your cockatoo is awake, eyes open, alert. Maybe grinding their beaks softly or sitting quietly on a perch. They seem fine. They seem like they want to be up with you. And every minute they stay awake past sunset is unraveling something inside their body you cannot see. Cockatoos require 10 to 12 hours of complete uninterrupted darkness to produce the melatonin their endocrine system depends on. Not dim light, not a covered cage in a lit room. Darkness, true darkness. Without it, their hormonal cycle fragments. Melatonin production collapses. The immune system, which repairs itself during deep sleep, begins to erode. The behavioral consequences arrive slowly. Irritability, hormonal surges, aggression that appears random, immune suppression that turns a minor infection into a crisis. Avian veterinarians compare it directly to what chronic shift work does to the human body. The same metabolic disruption, the same endocrine damage, the same slow-burning deterioration hidden behind the appearance of functioning. Your cockatoo doesn't ask to go to bed because in a wild flock, the flock decides when the day ends. The sun sets. The canopy goes dark. Every bird settles. There is no negotiation. You are the sun. When you keep the lights on, the day never ends. And a cockatoo who lives in permanent daylight isn't well-rested and happy. They're exhausted at a hormonal level that their open eyes will never show you, the love that became the cage. This is the one I told you about at the beginning, the one that hurts. You are your cockatoo's entire world, their entertainment, their social life, their source of comfort, stimulation, safety, and joy. When you're home, they're alive. When you leave, they scream. When you're in the room, they watch only you. And you thought that meant you were doing everything right. You thought the intensity of their attachment was proof that you had built something beautiful. And you did. But you also built a prison. A cockatoo whose entire emotional regulation system is wired to a single human being is a cockatoo who has lost the neurological ability to exist without that person in the room. They cannot self-soothe. They cannot find calm alone. They cannot sit on a perch for 5 minutes without you and feel anything other than a panic, so total it bypasses their brain and goes straight into their feathers. The plucking, the barbering, the self-mutilation that makes you cry when you find raw skin under the down. That is not a behavioral problem. That is a nervous system that outsourced every coping mechanism it had to your physical presence and now collapses the moment you walk through a door. You didn't cause this by neglecting them. You caused this by never teaching them that safety can exist in the space between your body and theirs. Foraging toys they solve alone, Time in the cage with you visible but not interacting. Gradual, gentle, consistent exposure to the experience of being okay without you touching them. Not because you love them less, because you love them enough to let them learn that they are whole on their own. None of these 6 things make you a bad owner. Not one. They make you a human being who loved a cockatoo with everything you had, and nobody, not the breeder, not the pet store, not the internet, not anyone, ever sat you down and said, the way humans love and the way cockatoos receive love are not the same language. Now you know, and knowing is not a punishment, it's a door. The same love that accidentally caused harm is the exact same love that will fix it. Starting tonight. Starting with the next meal. Starting with where your hands land and where the cage sits and what time the lights go off. You were never the problem. The translation was. Like if you needed to hear this today. And subscribe because your cockatoos who needs you to keep learning.